And welcome back to another episode of How's the Market. And today we're talking about buying through uncertainty. Is this what's happening right now? Is it actually one of the best times in the inner east to buy in Melbourne? What's your overall thoughts, James?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a bit of a crazy start to the year. I don't necessarily, it hasn't been. I guess with the rate cuts last year, we would have thought, like anyone would have thought coming into this year, it's probably going to, hit the ground running pretty quickly. But I just feel there's a lot of hesitation, and early rate rise or rate hike, in February, earlier this month, that definitely has just put the brakes on things. And all the stuff that we talked about last week with the government and whatnot. Yeah. I have put an email out to the opposition leader. They've emailed back as well. So who knows, we might have someone from the opposition on the podcast soon.
Oh, that'd be funny.
But yeah, mate, it's just, I think there's uncertainty. There's just that feeling of uncertainty in the market for sure.
Yeah. So what does that actually mean? But we'll jump into it. But first, a bit of a market update, which will actually just contextualize the uncertainty, what's actually happening on the ground as well. So week ending 22nd of Feb in Melbourne, 1,429 auctions. So last week there was, I think, 900. So it's a huge jump up in terms of the actual quantity of auctions that are out there. Clearance rate is now 53.46% according to SQM. So last week we were 51.16. So it is a slightly higher clearance rate and significantly more auctions as well. Now, for the top end of the market, which is sort of what we're talking about today, especially above 1.5 mil across Boroondara, Stonington, Port Phillip and Yarra, there was 113 auctions that took place and a clearance rate of 52.2. So lower than Melbourne in its entirety. Only slightly though. So
which is not normally the case.
Usually
higher.
Usually it's a little bit higher. It's a touch higher. Yeah, correct. But I mean, they're usually fairly in line with one another, but usually the upper end has maybe got a slightly higher clearance rate than across the board, but it is sort of dependent. So,
and this is just to note on that, like auction clearance rates and why, we track it. Like we send out a weekly email with all of these auction results. It's across those three.
There's 4 LGAs, yeah.
There's 4 LGAs. So just with that, it's really interesting. Like we can say there's 1,400 auctions this weekend, might be 1,200 next weekend, so on and so forth. And, we're doing the overall, like a blanket number of how many of those properties actually sold. What's really interesting is to dive a little bit deeper. And that's what I've always enjoyed about like working in this space, is actually going to the next layer and understanding what was selling. You know what I mean? Like what were the price points? Were there lots of apartments? Were there lots of like cracker homes in there? Were there a whole bunch of shit in there? Like that's probably the next part that, someone that's in the industry and someone that's, doing this professionally is going to look. And, when I'm looking at properties that are of interest, I'll always put the auction date in my diary, and then I'll look at the Monday. Did it sell? Did it not? Just so that I have this constant reference point. But yeah, whenever you're looking at this information and you see it reported, try to understand a little bit more as to, or even if you just have the understanding that it is a blanket approach and the mix of properties are very, very different. It goes all the way from student accommodation at $150,000 to $150 million home. You know what I mean? Like that's the range. It just covers everything.
That's why we do this upper end auction report, because it does try to like cut out a bit of the crap that's in there, which can sometimes just distort as outliers the actual clearance rates and values. And mate, honestly, if you're not on this list, you should definitely reach out and get onto it. I loved looking through all of the data each week, and I can tell you that from the weeks gone coming into 2026, I have seen some horrendous quotes out there. Yeah. Like there's a couple particular agencies that have come out the gate. They must have had a team meeting at the end of December and said, hey, let's just drop the quota ranges by 15% across the board and just see what happens. And there's definitely been that out there. And I was looking at one this morning in Fitzroy North on Ray Street. The quote 3.9 to 4.29, sold 5.1.
Crazy.
800 grand out.
What are those LJs again? So Stonington, Boroondara,
Port Phillip and Yarra.
Yeah.
So I'm tempted to add Bayside in there as well. Just make a lot more work for the team on the back end. But probably a market that we do a fair amount in now as well. And yeah, I mean, it is quite interesting. Like just some of the quoted ranges that I've seen recently, like particularly this year, I've seen like 20, 30, 40% out.
Well, they can get away with it. Like when there's uncertainty in the market, like if they ever got in trouble, because it is illegal, like technically it is illegal to underquote, but when there's uncertainty and people don't know what things are going to sell for, like that's obviously a reason that they can, justify their case for putting it the price where it's advertised at.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So what we're talking about, there is uncertainty out there. Why is there uncertainty out there? So, this week, realestate.com released an article saying rate hike fears drive Melbourne auction withdrawals and stated that 168 auctions were withdrawn from the last weekend that has just gone. The RBA has hiked the cash rate 25 basis points to 3.85% on the 3rd of February, which is the first rate hike since November 2023. And then there is also another potential hike in March, which is now being discussed, which is rattling confidence. Roy Morgan data has shown that if the further rate hike was to occur, that it would push mortgage stress to 25.8% of all mortgage holders nationally. I mean, like that is a serious number. The prestige market, as we've seen and talked about, has underperformed over the last sort of 12 to 24, even 48 months, like in a fairly big way.
Yeah.
And then there is some cohorts of property types in the inner eastern suburbs that are now getting significantly higher days on market and have been struggling in particular price points. And we're seeing that there's also a lot of these properties that are going to auction having just no bids. It's a vendor bid pass in. So there is definitely a turning sentiment out there. I think what we're trying to talk about today is that there can be like some fairly significant opportunities out there as well. And whilst this sentiment is shifting perception, the underlying fundamentals of Melbourne still have a really solid case. So, I mean, is there anything else that I've missed in terms of like the negativity that's out there at the moment? You're probably seeing it all over the news and media.
Yeah, and it's just the government stuff as well. Like we've got an election later this year. That's probably the only thing that I'll add in. But you can see why people pause, and especially like, if you've got parents or uncle or auntie that like send you things like articles and it's just like, hey, have you seen this on realestate.com? Like maybe you should wait a little bit. That's what drives a lot of this stuff. And unfortunately, those people that do buy into all of that kind of stuff, they're usually the ones that miss out. So if you look at property from a long-term perspective, which we always do, so we're looking 10, 15, 20 years, right? Like if you're going and buying your owner-op property, hopefully you're going to be there for 10 years. Even if you're there for less and it's over 5, you're probably going to like weather the storm if you bought it slightly higher. So if it did dip, so let's just say you spent $2 million and there was look, at that price point, even around here, it's not going to fluctuate too much. The higher end market definitely feels that heat, like where you can get the adjustments. So like Toorak, Brighton, all of those upper echelon suburbs will feel larger impacts just because the median house price and the houses selling there are much larger. But let's just say it's $2 million. Even if it went down, let's just say it's 5%, right? So if it goes down $100,000, what does that mean? So that's like year 1. But by year 5, 9 times out of 10, and what the data shows us over the last 50, 60 years that it's been recorded, is that it's probably going to bounce back and then some. So it'll get back to the 2 mil and it'll probably end up at like 2.2 or something like that.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
The fact that you're just in the market and you've bought when you can is all that you need to worry about. So, interest rates going up and down, trying to fix interest rates. Again, we're not financial advisors or we're not mortgage brokers or anything like that. We just look at the data. With that 7% increase, like capital growth across Australia over the last, X amount of years, I think it's around that 40 or 50 year mark that it's been tracked. And then the cash rate as well. So the cash rate tracking along fixed rates, like people always try to get into that fixed rate. If you were to leave it variable, or like if you were to ask a mortgage broker in that scenario, fixed price or variable, they should tell you that variable wins, every time, if you can just hold and weather the storm. So yes, it's not pleasant. Yes, it's not something that one wants to go through. Everyone wants to buy at the bottom. But when there's more competition, because I think it's retracted now to that point where there's less people in the market. And
Well,
that's
truly, yeah.
And there's going to be there will be an oversupply. That's kind of what I'm feeling, especially when you go down these articles of withdrawals, like auction withdrawals. That just means that, there's not enough people around to purchase those homes, and they don't have enough people that are interested in bidding at auction. So they just go, you know what, we're going to pull this off the market, or we're going to pull the auction campaign. We're just going to run it as private sale.
Mate, we were at an auction in Hampton on the weekend. It was the shortest auction I've ever been to. I'd say it was literally like 2 minutes. 120 seconds was the entire auction. And I'd never seen an auctioneer come out in the way that he did, but he came out and straight up announced, beautiful property, all of the buyers that we have right now, not ready. So I've got a feeling this is going to be a really quick auction. We're not doing any halftime breaks. If you were waiting for a halftime break, imagine that that's just happened. We're starting with the vendor bid at the bottom of the range. Is anyone interested? Going once, going twice. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be formally passing the property in. and that was it. That was the whole thing.
You know what's really interesting and why, again, like diving into the data, and I've been in the space for quite a while, and I've seen these cycles before where auctions don't work. So Melbourne is predominantly an auction city, especially the LJs that we work within. I think Stonington has been or was number one for concentration of auctions as the amount of sales that occurred in there
Globally, right?
Yeah, globally. That was worldwide.
I believe that too.
Yeah. So in terms of this scenario, it was exactly the same when the Royal Commission happened in 2017, I think it was. 2017, 2018. Like that market there was literally when I'd just opened a buyer's agency business, and that happened. I remember going to this auction in Chadstone, and I was driving down the street. I saw the flag out there, and because normally auctions you have about 5 minutes, like before they do all the fluff and whatnot.
Yeah.
Get to the auction and get out of the car. It was like 2 minutes past 10 or something like that. And same thing again.
It was done.
It's done.
No.
Everything's over. So I think when you've been in the space for quite a while, you can recall these situations, and it's like, what happened then? And we can prepare as well. Like we can prepare, and we can obviously get our clients in line with an understanding as to like what's going to play out. But my gut, like honestly, like I want to buy property like right now. Like, and we are personally, and that's just how I feel. I try to go down this, not overly contrarian with everything, like run the other way. But I do believe, like I stand by a statement, which I learned many, many years ago, where the road less traveled is paved with gold. And that is just where I feel everything's at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the auction market will change if this trend continues and things don't differ drastically in the short term, like I'm talking like the next 6 weeks, then I think that the strategy that agents will have to bring to the table when talking to vendors might differ. Because last year we saw that there was a shocking clearance rate in the upper end markets with expressions of interest campaigns where they were like 20% of them were selling. And then if auctions get to the stage where clearance rates drop sort of any further and it goes below 50%, it'll just have to be a different market. And I think the strategy that I've seen this year so far has been underquote more, and then auctions will be successful again, like quote it lower. And then we'll get like people emotionally invested as the deal's too good to be true. But I don't think that can last a very long time, and
they'll just
the
flick
market
back
will just be educated and change.
Yeah, and then they'll just flick back into private sale with an underquote anyway, and then there'll be bidding that happens afterwards. This is literally the cycle, right?
Yep.
So auctions don't work anymore. They'll still do it to like drive interest, and that's probably what these guys did. We're maybe a little bit early in that cycle for them to understand and use auctions as marketing.
Yep.
That's usually the way that they drive people to a property. They get all their information. It's like, hey, this thing's not going to progress. We're just going to negotiate with you guys, right?
Yeah.
So like you now have an opportunity to negotiate on this property.
I got about 5 emails last week selling prior to auction.
Yeah, there you go.
You 24 hours to give your best and final, because it like creates the urgency again.
Yeah, 100%.
But the agent's like, we've got one buyer. Like, let's.
Yeah, it's not a failed campaign because
it's not at all.
Yeah, they know they know the information behind it. It is a failed campaign because they've only got one buyer.
You're still selling though, yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. It's like the auction campaign to everyone else. If you were to look at it, you would say, and they're probably thinking, hey, this auction campaign's not going as well as we thought. We need to pivot.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
that's when the perception to the market is, this thing's actually going really well. We're going to sell it before the auction. You know what I mean? We've got so much interest in it.
It's sort of like save face.
We're just going to negotiate with you guys because there's an opportunity here for us just to sell it and not have to go through the auction.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, I'm seeing that across the board as well. And even with the ones that are passing in, like I'm just seeing that there's a high likelihood of having one buyer on a lot of auctions at the moment. So a lot of them are selling the same weekend to that buyer.
Yeah, and that's normal.
But it's a pass in negotiation on the weekend and there was no auction. It's like, and you know, it's great for a buyer perspective, and we'll get into that in a minute, but it does put the vendors in a position of weakness, which is why I think that we might start to see the agents changing their tactics a little bit to do pre-auction offers, like maybe more so higher or pivot to private sales. That wouldn't surprise me at all as well.
And I know I'm biased to the buyer's agent space. Obviously, that's what we do. But these markets are the ones that clients get the most out of us. Like seriously, when things are uncertain and when the market's trending down, like the auction that you won a couple of weeks ago, literally no more money in the tank. They were at 1.4, you got it for 1.312. So if and I've sat in that seat with a very similar number buying a property in Surrey Hills, and the client sat, because the property passed into us, sitting in the seat, there was a vendor advocate as well. Crazy, like how similar the story was. And I remember sitting there with her, and the vendor, or the client, the agent kept coming out saying, "Yep, this is where we're at." 1.4, blah, 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 blah. I think we were at 1.3 and we only went up. I actually think the numbers are very, very similar. I'd have to go back and have a look at it. I still remember them. And she just turned around and said, you saved us 80 grand. Like you just saved us $80,000 because we would have caved.
We would have paid it. Yeah.
Yeah, we would just caved. But I said to her, I'm like, there was no one else there. Like I went out and checked, and that's something that I try to do is like, if they put you in the back room, luckily they put us in the front room, so I could just like open the curtains and I'd seen that everyone else had left.
Yeah.
So there's no one else to negotiate with. And yeah, she just turned around and said, you just saved us $80,000 because I would have just agreed with them because I want the property.
Yeah. You're so emotional.
I said best and final. And she's like, what do you mean? Like best and final? Like we can pay more than that. I'm like, no, don't worry. Like there's no one else to negotiate with.
Yeah.
Our best and final might not be the best and final because we do want the property, but that was just the play that we did. And yeah, we were able to secure it. And yeah, obviously they saved 80 grand just by having someone to remove that emotion. And I know that's a constant thing that we talk about, but yeah, people that are operating in this market and wanting to purchase in this market, it is the time to know your numbers, right? Like, and really understand your numbers, because when properties get passed in, when you are the only purchaser or the only buyer on that particular property, you are in the strong position. And the vendors, you can imagine if you're selling a property at auction, there's so much stress that goes along with that. Like we've done it multiple times with clients on the vendor advocacy side, and it's stressful for them getting to this day and everything happens. And if it doesn't happen, it's so deflating. So it's
way worse.
And the agents want to get it done as well. Like, there's really good agents out there that aren't going to just get the deal done because, they want their commission. They will work and just say, give them the facts to say, well, this guy's here. Like these people are here. They're offering X. I don't know if we're going to get this in the market if we turn it down. So we can get it sold now. You can be done. You can move on with your life. Again, there's auctions and sales of properties can be, debt, divorce, and death.
Yeah.
So yeah, that they are obviously there's other ones as well that can be quite happy and people can get excited about selling a property. But if there is a lot of emotional attachment or that property is like holding them back, it can almost just be this relieving fact of the property's now sold. I'm done with it.
Get it done.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, mate, I couldn't agree more with that whole sentiment. But what I'll go through now, I'll go through some of the stuff just in Melbourne's track record as well, because I think that there is just such good opportunity here. And unfortunately, too many people do get swamped by the sentiment of all the news articles and the auctions and everything else that we've just discussed now. But if you zoom out, Melbourne's, been flat for the last 2 years, but that's fairly common in the context of Melbourne's market cycles. Like we've maybe come back in some markets by 1% or 2%, but it's not like things have fallen off a cliff in any way, shape, or form. And just some comments that have been out there. I mean, Melbourne did post consecutive months of growth in the second half of 2025. So a lot of people have seen that as a sign of, well, it's already started to change around. Domain forecasts that Melbourne house prices will reach 1.17 as a median by the end of 2026 and expect a full recovery to pre-pandemic highs. Buyers agents around the country are all saying that Melbourne's intrinsically undervalued and that we're now the most affordable city in the country, which is an insane thing to think about in many ways, shapes, or forms. And we've got clients that are moving. Like this week, we've had people book in that's from Perth, relocating to Melbourne, quoting affordability. Their broker said, you can't afford Perth anymore, go back home.
Crazy.
We've got some people that are living in Sydney currently that are trying to move down to Melbourne to try to find the home because they can't afford Sydney. And so they're like, wow, Melbourne's just so cheap. Like, I mean, we spoke about this in the previous weeks, but that is very, very true. KPMG have forecast Melbourne's house prices will rise by a combined 14.1% by the end of 2027. So they say 6.8% 26 and 7.3% in 2027. And then ANZ has also estimated that Melbourne is currently approximately 13% undervalued compared to historical price ratios with Sydney. And they've said that the gap doesn't correct slowly. It tends to close quickly when sentiment shifts and a catalyst arrives. So what that catalyst could be, I mean, there's just a multitude of things that can take place and happen. It could just be from one big sale and then all of a sudden the ripple effect sort of transitions through. I mean, we see that with the auction markets quite clearly. But I think that there's just so many things that are pointing to Melbourne being just such a good opportunity right now. But it really does depend on what you're looking at in the marketplace and in what positions you're in at the moment. Like I had a call with someone last night that's essentially feeling a bit of this as well, where he was saying there's been some pretty good sales results out there. Like I want to buy, but he needs to sell as well. And I think that there is an incredibly good argument for people upsizing at the moment. If you're selling in the if you're selling, in the first home buyer market and then purchasing in the sort of middle price point band. So if you're selling for below $1 million, where that market is just way hotter across the board with all of Melbourne, and then you're purchasing in that 1.5 to 2.5 band, that market is hurting a lot more. So if you can sell in a really hot market and then buy in a market that might be a little bit undercooked or undervalued, or there's more opportunity there, I think that that's just such a good market to be in. And then on the other side of things as well, it's unrenovated properties. They're just hurting like no other at the moment. Like people are terrified of renovating, builders, everything else. And that's been the case for the last 6 to 12 months. Like if you listen to this, you probably heard us talk about this. So this particular buyer that we're chatting with, he wants to sell a fully renovated property sub 1 mil and then buy something that's unrenovated and renovated himself between 1.8 to 2.
Yeah.
I reckon there's such a good opportunity there, like an insane opportunity where you could be getting, hundreds of thousands of dollars of uplift just from timing market sentiment. So I think that there is pretty good sort of causes for looking at Melbourne. But talking about the inner east specifically, I think that there is just some fundamental things in the inner east that are just never going to go away or change. Like the scarcity of heritage homes out here. Like I'm sure that you've seen, the heritage homes is always going to have a strong demand in this marketplace.
Definitely.
Plus the schools as well. Right?
Yeah. And we've spoken about that kind of stuff before around heritage versus modern, right? Like we did a whole episode on it. But those, leafy streets, those, larger blocks, the larger homes, even down to the apartments, if they are older apartments and they're larger or there's not as many on a block,
not making them anymore.
Yeah, those things aren't going to change, right? And the schools aren't going to move. So that's typically what will drive certain markets. And that's why it's super important to look at that long term, right? Because it's just a very short term lens. Like you almost need to, anything on news.com, which is very related to realestate.com. Anything through domain, like news wise, right? They are there literally just to sell advertising. So it used to be sell newspapers. There's not too many people buying newspapers, except you see a few around here, like when you go on a walk.
Your generation, mate.
Yeah, but I don't mind. I love actually reading a newspaper. But
Clip that.
yeah. But in terms of, they're selling advertising. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so clickbaity. Like if you just go through the articles on news.com, it is ridiculously clickbaity.
Oh, it's rubbish.
Yeah. And it's like even the stuff that they post on Facebook, you know, to drive people in and like click the link. It's literally just so that you click the link. So don't buy into this shit. Like I've said it for years and years and years. Like mass media is the bane of my existence, especially on the impact, like the flow and effect that it has with people in making decisions. Like don't make your decisions off some freaking high school or like, person that might've just graduated from university that is trying to become a journalist and writing these clickbait articles just to create a name for themselves because that's what their editor wants so that they can sell more advertising.
And look, unfortunately they work. They really do work in driving sentiment. Like if you were in the process of selling, like you're building at the moment, like if you were just about to put your home on the market and then realestate.com, which is like a reputable brand. It's like a nationally known brand that has, you know, a strong presence to it. And then they put out an article that says rate hike fears drive Melbourne auction withdrawals. Like your stomach could drop if you're about to list, or maybe your property's on the market at the moment. Like your stomach would drop reading that and be like, oh my god, what have I done? Like, and then you might call your agent, and be like, we'll pull
what's
it,
happening?
Let's withdraw. Like, where's the buyers? What are we doing? And like, it can make you spiral pretty quickly because
Absolutely.
And then not only that, like realestate.com will post something and then it's syndicated through the Herald Sun and it's syndicated and then Domain will just copy it.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden you've got 12 articles that have popped up in your feed and because you've clicked on them, the algorithm knows and the algorithm's going to start showing you more content of all these properties that pass in at auctions. Like
people just have to have the blinkers on.
Yeah,
like,
you do.
You just have to have the blinkers on with this kind of stuff out there because it's not a short-term play. Like, and trying to read the bottom, trying to like understand, you know, when the best time is to buy. There's no right time. Like there's literally no right time. It should be situational. Like, are you ready to go? Is there a property that's available for me? Like, and we spoke about this earlier, just around there being an opportunity. The agents that we've spoken to, we've even seen the amount of properties that have started to come onto the market, but they have a lot of properties like that are booked for March. Like there's a ton of properties that are coming on into March, like for sale in March. So if you are in that position, like if you've got your shit together, you've got your pre-approval, or, you know, you can go and speak to a mortgage broker relatively quickly and get your ducks in a row, it's going to be a good opportunity to buy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's huge opportunities out there at the moment in the marketplace. And like the uncertainty creates such good opportunities. Like that property that we bought a couple of weeks ago, there was 5 or 6 parties that had spoken to the agent and said that they're keen, they're interested, got building and pest done, they want to buy it. That actually, and then there was 2 other groups that had said all of those things, which showed up on auction day. And maybe because like when I was bidding, like I didn't open the bidding up, like I sort of just let it sit stale and quiet for a good and awkward amount of time, so that everyone in the crowd, including the auctioneer and myself, we were all uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And because like maybe they're sitting there thinking like,
something's wrong with it.
Something's wrong. Like maybe the market is dead. Like I don't want to. And then even like my first bid was for 5,000, which was just rejected. And I just said, I'm not increasing. Yeah. And then I just left it and they just went and did a mid-auction meeting and then came back out and I offered $5,000 again and they rejected it again. And then it was another silence for another minute and I gave them an extra 5. But maybe it's like there was other people in the crowd that would have been seeing that and thinking,
what's happened?
The market's dropping. Like I'm not catching a falling knife. Like let's just put this on pause. Let's just see what happens for 6 months. And they're going to look back at that. I can tell you that they're going to look back at that and be like, oh, but that one sold for 1.312 and all the other ones are selling for like 1.4, 1.45. Like, oh, we should have just bought that. It's like, probably should have. You were there and you were ready.
Yeah.
But maybe these media articles and everything else has just created a bit of breaks, and like the budgets are fine, and you know what you want, and you know the areas you want to be in. But so maybe we'll just wait for a little bit and see what happens. And that is where I think such good opportunity comes in.
Yeah, you can just imagine the conversations. Like seriously, because my own mum would do this. Like if they knew that we're going and buying something, doesn't matter what it is, they would send me an article, or mum would send me an article. Go, hey, like, have you seen this? Like maybe it's not the best time to purchase, or maybe just wait a little bit. Like 100%, there would be multiple people out there, and maybe these guys that did show up at auction. Yeah, their parents or someone they knew sent them the article, and it was just like, hey, just hold off. Just, wait, maybe play it out. Like there'll be more properties that pop up. Maybe you can get it for cheaper.
Yeah. The advice from mum and dad, I've seen derail multiple auctions.
And it turns so quickly. Like the market, as that data said, like KPMG said that gain or the 17% disparity between Melbourne and Sydney.
Yep.
It happens like that. I'm talking like weeks, because people pick up on a trend. People have the money to spend. So everything is based on ceilings of, what you can actually afford. So if you're at $2 million, for instance, and you are in the market, you're trying to get an opportunity because you think, you're clever and you're reading the market. And let's just say you're looking at properties at 1.7 to 1.8, thinking, yeah, cool, I'll buy here and I'll get the next rise. And all of a sudden, the properties that you're looking at go 1.7, 1.75, 1.8, 1.85, 1.9, 2 mil. And then you're not in that suburb anymore and you have to change. So you only have these 3 levers that you can pull when you're buying a property. It's the budget, which generally can't change. You've got the location, or you've got the property type. So if you're priced out of a market because you can't afford it, so that $2 million doesn't buy you in Glen Iris, or it doesn't buy you in Ashburton, you have to change the property type. So you might go from a 4-bedder or a 3-bedder down to a 2-bedder. That might not work for you. So you then have to change location. You have to jump over Warrigal Road. And that's like a real big pill for people to swallow. Like they don't want to do that. So you don't want to leave yourself in that situation and like cop that, because some stupid media article has made you think that if you wait, you're going to be the smart person. The smart person buys when they can and holds. Like that is it. And that's home ownership from a owner-op perspective. If you're doing it for investment and you're doing it as a business, you're flipping houses, you're turning this stock over, very, very different. That is someone that can look at the market every day and make these adjustments and take these risks. If you're a homeowner that's just wanting to buy a good property, you buy a good property and you live in it for a long time, that's what most people do, you will be fine.
Yeah, and that's it. I love that, mate. Well, what a good way to wrap it up. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to How's the Market. If you did enjoy today's episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a quick review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps more people to find the show. If you are looking for help purchasing your next property or getting access to more off-market opportunities, head over to www.tommy.com.au and submit your brief, and we'll reach out if we're able to help you. Until next week, we'll catch you guys then. Bye.